Ibrahim Mohammed heard gunfire outside his house as bullets streaked over the skies of Khartoum, where, he said, he saw warring militias killing people and looting houses. The 27-year-old software developer told CNN his home in the Nuzha neighborhood of the Sudanese capital was in the middle of the war zone when fighting broke out in April. I even saw many people who were shot by the people who were fighting in the streets near our house, he said. It is not safe at all to be in Khartoum, so I had to flee. More than 2 months later, fighting between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, has descended into a brutal conflict, characterized by reports of sexual and genocidal violence in civilian casualties, and triggering an exodus of refugees. As many as 3,000 people have been killed since the conflict started on April 15, Sudan's Minister of Health, Haitham Ibrahim, told Saudi-owned al-Hadath news television on June 17. Almost 2.5 million people have been displaced inside and outside the country, according to recent figures from the International Organization for Migration, IOM, amid ongoing hostilities against the civilian population that have exacerbated the humanitarian crisis. Many Sudanese have fled the fighting to neighboring countries like Egypt, Chad, Ethiopia, and South Sudan. But some, Mohammed among them, found themselves trapped by a bureaucratic nightmare, and they say the United States is responsible. They have been stranded in the country without their passports, some left to fend for themselves while their families found safer refuge. The passports, they say, were destroyed by the U.S. Embassy, where the documents were being held for visa processing when the fighting broke out. Several testimonies and emails reviewed by CNN show that the American embassy in Khartoum destroyed the passports when it evacuated the country on April 22, citing standard procedure to prevent the documents from falling into the wrong hands. This is not the first time passports have been destroyed by an evacuating American embassy. When Afghanistan's civilian government fell to Taliban fighters in August 2021, American personnel destroyed the passports of some Afghans at the U.S. Embassy in Kabul in preparation for a full evacuation. Standard operating procedure and screenshots seen by CNN, the U.S. Embassy sent an email to Sudanese visa applicants in response to their inquiries to retrieve their passports. It is standard operating procedure during a drawdown to take precautions to not leave behind any documents, materials, or information that could fall into the wrong hands and be misused, the email said. The embassy advised Sudanese visa applicants without passports to apply for a new passport with the Sudanese embassy in Cairo, despite Egyptian authorities issuing a raft of entry requirements for refugees from the country. Nearly 256,000 refugees, the majority from Sudan, have entered Egypt since the fighting started on April 15, according to recent figures from the UN's Refugee Agency. On June 10, Egypt's foreign ministry changed the rules to require all Sudanese to obtain electronic visas for entry. Previously, only men between ages 18 and 49 required an entry visa, with exemptions for women, children, and the elderly. In one email seen by CNN, the U.S. Embassy suggested visa applicants journey to a passport office in northern Sudan to obtain a travel document in lieu of their passport. In another exchange, an embassy official suggested trying to get a new passport, but the fighting has put an end to many Sudanese government services. The Sudanese nationals who spoke to CNN described perilous attempts to escape the conflict and reach a safe neighboring country. They accused the U.S. Embassy of negligence and say they were not given a viable solution for legal passage out of Sudan. A U.S. State Department spokesperson told CNN the embassy had passports of visa applicants as well as of U.S. citizens applying for consular services, but it had to destroy them rather than leave them behind unsecured. As we receive new information, we will provide individuals, with whom we are in communication, information on how to obtain a new passport or travel documents, the spokesperson said. We recognize that the lack of travel documentation is a burden for those seeking to depart Sudan. We have and will continue to pursue diplomatic efforts with partner countries to identify a solution, the statement added.